Hello and welcome back to the Delve podcast. Today we are taking another Reddit question, and this one is about comparing yourself to others, which I hear a lot from clients. So it's sure to be a really great episode. I'm Allie. I'm a staff therapist here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam. I'm the Executive and Clinical Director at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
Yes, please help us spread the word with this podcast. We're not trying for fame here. We don't plan to run any ads, so it's very listener friendly. We just want to be helpful and add value to as many people as possible. So if you find value in this podcast, please share it with at least one other person. Two, if you're feeling generous, it would really help us out. Here at Delve Psych, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. So if you're interested, please reach out to us for a consultation call. It's free at delvepsych.com, delvepsych.com. And also, please check out our Substack. That's our blog, and we talk about really awesome topics, just like the topics we talk about here on the pod, over at delvepsych.substack.com.
Yeah, and we do have a few of those very low-cost sessions available still, including probably one pro bono slot. So there is some space for some extremely affordable psychotherapy. And then many of our clinicians have at least some availability, and several have quite a bit of availability right now. So by all means, reach out to us if you're looking for services. We can help, assuming you're in Illinois.
Yes, if you're in Illinois, you need support, please reach out. Even if you feel like you can't afford it, we have those slots. So please do reach out.
Yeah. Allie, I'm a little worried about doing this topic with you.
Why?
I think you're going to do it better than me.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
That's the comparison thing. I'm doing the comparison thing.
I didn't even catch what you were doing there, but that's very clever.
Oh, thank you. But in all seriousness, like I haven't heard the question yet, but I actually find some of the questions about comparison to be some of the stickiest. I think these are really tough questions. So I'm interested to hear how the writer, the OP, frames it.
Yes, and I have a feeling for a lot of our listeners, this might sound familiar. You might be able to relate. Okay, so the title of the Reddit question is, how do you actually stop comparing yourself to others? It's ruining my self-worth. I've been struggling a lot lately with comparing myself to others, especially people around me who are further ahead in their careers, more emotionally stable, or just seem to be doing better at life. I know comparison is the thief of joy, and I've been told a million times that everyone's path is different. But that logic doesn't stop the feeling. I still spiral sometimes, thinking I'm behind or not good enough, even when people say I'm doing okay. It gets worse when it's someone I care about. I don't want to be jealous or bitter. I want to feel proud of others and secure in myself, but it's hard. It makes me feel guilty, small, and like something's wrong with me for even feeling this way. So I'm asking, what helped you? Was there a mindset shift, a practical habit, therapy, time? I want to stop letting comparison run my life and start feeling good about who I am again. To say it bluntly, this is ruining my life right now.
Wow, it's powerful. And yeah, I think these are some of the sticky ones. I think this is exactly the pattern of thought that many find themselves in, and they often feel that same kind of chasing or vacuousness or loss, confusion, and less thanness. It's sad.
It is. I think it's I would say a very human experience and very natural, I would say, for humans to compare ourselves to each other. I'm wondering if we can talk about maybe why that is.
I wonder about that as a framing. Like, is it the case that is a natural condition to compare? I'm not so sure. It may be, again, kind of a social construction that we compare in that way. And we were talking about this with family somewhat recently, but is this an innate thing about humans, or is it a thing that we've constructed with the way that we've put societies together?
Well, I mean, I imagine comparison is a way for us to sort of kind of figure out our place in the world, in society. How am I doing really? Like, what is the barometer, and how do we really know without looking at other people to sort of gauge that? I don't know. That's just my first thought on why we may do that.
I read a book a while back called The Dawn of Everything. It's a pretty thorough, very dense look back at the history of civilizations and the history of kind of humanity, especially with respect to these questions about our the Rousseau-Hobbes debate is one of them. Is are people inherently good or evil, and is inequity how would I say predetermined? Is the idea that we will have inequality a absolute truth of humanity, or is that just a social construction? And the authors certainly take the position that inequity is not innate, that just because we happened to create societies that are unequal and have those hierarchies to them does not necessarily mean that that must be or was preordained to be that way. It was as a result of specific choices that happened early in the construction of societies. So because that happened so early, and because our societies are structured in those kind of unequal hierarchical ways, then we are sort of comparing ourselves to where am I in this hierarchy? But that itself ends up being constructed out of this thing that we made sociosystemically.
So the hierarchy itself was constructed. So are you saying that back when we were cavemen, we weren't necessarily comparing ourselves to others, you think?
I think that's beyond cave peoples. They make the case that there were early proto-civilizations that just did not construct themselves around hierarchies. You could look at the way that they seemed to live, the way that they constructed their buildings. Here's some evidence for a hierarchy in an archaeological sense. Are some of the buildings bigger than others? Do some of the buildings have more things in them than others? Do some of the buildings have nicer things in them than others? And we certainly have found early proto-civilizations where the answer to those questions is no. Everybody had the same house. Everybody had the same things. And we were even and equal. We even built in something of a circular pattern, which is both safety but also equality.
So perhaps you're saying it's more of a response to, like, because we live in this capitalist society of there are the haves and the have-nots, and there are, upper class, middle class, lower class. Perhaps we compare to make sure we're, if not staying in the class we are at, climbing towards the higher class that we want to be in, at least, and we're not falling lower than that, perhaps.
Yeah, I think some of these class systems certainly create a huge part of that. And it's not just capitalism. I mean, hell, we could go back to feudalism, right? So I think you're right to kind of to hearken to the idea of class and class difference as being part of that comparator. We're telling people this is an important thing that differentiates you. And then those individuals are then saying, okay, well, I'm paying attention to this thing that you told me to pay attention to.
And we care because people told us to care?
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, so that could partly be why we compare, like, perhaps people that are making more at their job than us, or seem to have a bigger house, a better car, whatnot.
Right. Who's got more fame? Who's got more things? Who's got more resources? Who has more experiences? We're sold that people should have more.
Yeah.
And then we chase that more, somewhat out of the context that we were placed in. And who teaches us? It can be sources of media. It can be our friends. It could be our parents. All of the above. Even our educational systems are going to talk about, well, make sure that you get this degree and you get this job, and make sure that you're earning this amount, and all of that. No, there is safety in that, right? Like resource acquisition is also safety, is also opportunity. And I certainly respect that not having enough is very different
Right.
than the, hoarding of more.
Right. Right. Um,
But I might encourage the writer here to externalize this on some level. This thought pattern that you're falling into, that so many people fall into. It's a little bit yours and you should work on it, but it's also a little bit a thing that happened to you, a thing that people did to you.
so if we realize, okay, this is something that's been put onto me by society or parents or whoever has told me that I should care about this thing. Is it possible to decide to not care?
I think it's really fucking hard.
Okay.
But that's true of all of our social contexts, right? Like we were taught by our parents, our societies, our contexts, what's important and what's not important. And we go with that as our baseline. And very often it's not until you travel to very different places or live in very different ways or meet very different people that you realize that things could be done in a very different way. That kind of context breaking experience. So that is one of the things that I would recommend to this person is, if you can travel, then travel. If you can't travel, then learn about other cultures. If you can't learn about other cultures, then connect with different people that are very different than you, have experiences that are different than your own. Now you risk potentially comparing yourself to them, but at the same time, I would rather you have the experience of seeing how other people live, think, and experience than not. It might help you solve this problem in ways that I can't even conceptualize, because I don't know all of the thought pattern for this writer that supports their particular comparison patterns. What are they seeking? What are they perceiving? To what are they comparing? But they know, and they'll feel it when they see it in others, or they don't see it in others.
Yeah, just looking back at the question, looks like they're especially paying attention to people who are further ahead in their careers. It's interesting that they said more emotionally stable.
Mm-hmm.
And then just seem to be doing better at life, which could be a number of things that they're referring to there. But
yeah, and doing better at life is also going to be, who decides what better at life is? You'd say, well, I decide. Yeah, but if you're comparing, then you're not. If you are comparing, then you are not deciding. You're comparing to what other people have decided. And now we've got multiple other people. Well, who helped them decide? Well, their other people helped them decide. We're talking about society at that point. Like,
yeah,
it's a social construction. We've decided as a society what better at life is, and now they're chasing it and you're chasing it.
right.
That happened to you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I could imagine a client becoming angry at the realization that, man, this was put onto me. This thought pattern of like comparing myself to others to like go up the social classes and whatever, like and it's because like people told me that this was important, and it's been put on to me, like, it pisses me off because
Kinda.
I spend so much time and energy comparing myself, and it's not fun, and it's and so that really sucks. And so again, I could see somebody being like, okay, well then how do I not compare, right? I could see a client saying that, like, how do I not do this thing? And
Well, let's actually delay that question for just a second. Allie, did you watch Black Mirror?
oh, I watched a couple episodes of the first season, so it's been a long time.
Never watched the first episode. That's the recommendation to all listeners. No one ever watched the first episode of Black Mirror. But after that, it's very good.
I don't remember. The first episode was really bad.
It was gross. But
Oh,
anyway,
it was
they
gross.
went to
Okay.
some extreme places. Anyway.
Okay.
But so spoilers may abound. I apologize to anyone if you don't want to hear spoilers about Black Mirror, then please skip ahead here. But Allie, there was an episode where there was essentially an app where people could rate other people. Do you remember this?
I don't know if I've seen this one. No. So there was an app where you can rate other people.
Right. So if I was just out in the wild and I met you out in the wild and I had a good experience with you, I could like have the equivalent of I could scan your QR code and I could give you a rating and everybody could see your rating
Oh my God. It's like
as a whole
Uber,
person.
but everyone's an Uber driver and it's just about you as a person,
As a
not about your
person.
driving skills.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay.
You as a person. And a lot of what the episode gets into is that sort of chase for perfection, chase for perfect scores and great ratings, right? Not messing up your 5.0. So someone having an emotional reaction in any context, somebody not being at their best in
Mm,
any context was often enough for them to get really terrible ratings. And then how do you recover from that? You can't recover from that. Once you have those bad ratings, you're screwed.
whoa. What an interesting concept for an episode. So what did you take from that?
Well, there is one character in that episode that appears about halfway through with bad ratings. How do you think the person with bad ratings in this context where everybody cares about ratings is doing?
Oh God, they feel like crap. They're depressed.
You'd think.
No?
What if I add acceptance?
Hmm. How did that person get to acceptance? If every single person around them cares about ratings and that's what's important in this society in this episode, and how does that person just be like, okay?
I wish we had a blueprint for acceptance. Hell, to be honest with you, Allie, that's maybe something we should work on. Is are there steps to acceptance that we could
Hmm.
articulate? That feels like an interesting academic question to me, and maybe we could look into whether people have broken that down anywhere in the clinical literature or the social literature or the cognitive
Yeah.
literature. Now my mind's rolling. But I wonder if sometimes we can say, well, how do I do the thing? And the answer is to do the thing, right? Like, how do I accept you just do? Um, and I think that that probably comes with another of my favorite quotes. Um, Happiness is just your present circumstances minus expectations.
Hmm.
If you
Well,
have, go ahead.
because if you have really high expectations all the time, you'll probably be disappointed.
And also, expectations is kind of an imposition on your present circumstance that it should be different than it is.
Mm.
That I want it to be different than it is. I want the higher ratings. I want the bigger car. I want bigger house, better car, etc. I want those things, and the wanting comes from a desire to make the present circumstance different than it is. The
Mhm.
path toward happiness isn't an acquisition. People who have more aren't necessarily happier. You don't believe me? Fine, but I promise you it's true. Depression and suicide amongst the elite with a lot of money is rampant.
Yeah.
They're often very unhappy. Not
Right.
because there's anything wrong with them, but because money doesn't buy happiness. We know this.
Right.
So this character in this show is probably doing the best of all of them because they've essentially just landed on go ahead and judge me. Do it. Fine.
Yeah.
I don't need your approval.
Mm. Yeah. Something I thought about, like, especially when society is telling us we should care about um, making a certain dollar amount, or society is telling us that we should care about having this certain car, or society is telling us that we should want this certain size house or whatnot. And we spend so much time and energy um, comparing ourselves to people who have those things. Have we even like sat with ourselves and reflected on whether that's what we actually want for our lives, or is it just like what other people told us we should want? And I think instead focusing on what are our own personal goals in life, what are our own personal values in life that we're going towards, Because if we spend so much time comparing ourselves to other people, is that even the life that we want?
I think that is exactly the question to ask. And I think it's so damn hard. Like, how do we figure out what we ourselves actually value? How do we actually decide what is important to us versus what they've decided is important to us?
Yeah, it's hard. How do we parse that out? Because some of this stuff feels so ingrained.
And you know what I think is so challenging about it too is like, all right, so I'm going to take two passes at this. The first pass, the one that I'm about to say, is a lie. It's incomplete, and I'm so sorry. But I need to kind of say it so that we've got it to use as a foundation. So story one might be, okay, follow what feels good. And I mean like in an egosyntonic way. We talked about egosyntonic in a previous episode, where there's almost something within you that just kind of vibes with this present context, this present circumstance. When people have had this experience, you walk into a room where people are doing a very different thing than you ever have done before, and you feel it, and you're like, oh my God, there's something here. There's something in me in this place, in this thing that they're doing. This is there's something here. And that could be like a fucking drum circle or something like that. You've never drummed before, but they start drumming, you're in that space, and you're like, holy shit, there's something in me that is showing up here. If that feels synchronous in that way, you keep going. You keep paying attention to that. You keep flowing with that particular kind of energy. Over time, that will either continue that kind of syntonicity, or you'll start to notice a kind of a waning of that. And that can help you to kind of decide, like, was this a momentary experience that I thought was interesting, or is this something about me here? So there's the initial story. Couple of ways in which that's a lie, though. One is that some of the things that really do become us, we find through toil and discomfort, not synchronicity. It doesn't feel good at first. In fact, it might feel quite bad at first, but if you push through it and keep going, then you can find that feel good in it. So there are those kinds of acting schools of thought that have to do with kind of being very uncomfortable in yourself and in your space and in your embodiment of maybe a person or an animal even. I just did a little Googling and saw that maybe Lecoq was one of these practitioners that was teaching in this way. I don't know if maybe you know of some others, but essentially that there was this kind of way of embodying whatever creature, element, spirit, self portrayal it is that would likely be extremely uncomfortable. If I put you in a room with a bunch of strangers and say, act like a toddler with all these other strangers, you're uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
But if we all start doing it together, it might start to feel different and feel more cohesive. And I might actually find something in there for myself that's both a personally enjoyable experience, but also maybe even a way of being that helps me to then act different, profess different, it behave differently. So there may be a pathway by which I could come to find something about me through discomfort as well.
I mean, we always talk about how like change and growth comes through the uncomfortable, through sitting in the uncomfy and facing that. And sometimes like it is what we want. It's just, it's different. It's new. So it feels uncomfortable. But yeah, so, and I'd also imagine that a lot of these thoughts of, oh my God, that girl is so much prettier than me, or there's so much further ahead in their career than I am. A lot of these thoughts could be automatic for people. And so this idea of like, how do I not have these comparison thoughts? I know we always say like you're not responsible for your first thought. It's your second thought and your first action. And so I think that's the space where we have some room to play with and grow versus how do I completely take these automatic thoughts of comparison out of my brain.
Yes, absolutely. You bring up several good points. I think that a lot of practitioners would attack this problem cognitively. Hell, I've attacked this problem cognitively before, or behaviorally, where it's like, okay, so think different or behave different, or maybe emotionally, let's engage the emotions different. Let's sit with the discomfort. These are things that you'll hear therapists say. Let's attack the thinking pattern. Let's attack the action pattern. What do we do after we have these thoughts? Or let's sit with the emotion, explore the emotion, and grow more comfortable with the emotion. All of those are useful techniques. But what I'm encouraging in this particular episode, if you will, is I think that there's a relational path here. If we go back to Delve's 8 domains, one of them is this relational path. They're telling me that they are comparing themselves to other people constantly. So they've got other people in mind. Some of those people are probably safe to talk to. So I might encourage, take these thoughts that you are having that live internally and start talking to other people about them. As many other people as you feel safe with. And as many of those people that you're comparing yourself to that feel safe, find them, tell them this, and have those conversations, and let mere experience and relationship change you. But I also want you to start talking to other people. You're doing it already by getting on the internet and posting on Reddit. And I bet you there are some great comments in this particular Reddit sections. And you know, it's never going to be the first most upvoted comments that I find the most wisdom in. It's usually somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle, some people have got they're dropping some wisdoms. But then I also would say, again, meet people from different cultures, meet people from different places, meet people from different stations, and talk to them specifically about this idea of comparison, your idea of comparison. If they are safe to talk to or you think they are, try it. The mere experience of discussing this with others, I suspect, will change you.
That's interesting thought, that the vulnerable conversations that you have with people about these things, even the very people that you are comparing yourselves to, and maybe like even this Redditor talked about these close people in this person's life that they're jealous of and they don't want to feel jealous of, and they feel guilty for feeling jealous of them. Maybe even having conversations with those very people could be healing and changing. But I could also anticipate pushback from a client being like, I don't want that person to know how insecure I am.
Why not?
Because it's embarrassing that I'm like, I feel so, I don't know, bad about myself that I am just comparing myself to everyone all the time. Like, that's embarrassing to admit, perhaps. Or
And we should avoid embarrassment at all costs.
Well, it's an uncomfortable thing to feel. So I imagine people do want to avoid feeling that. Yeah.
Yeah. We will grow through vulnerability and discomfort. Yeah. And I also suspect a thing that I very often see when I can convince a client to do something like this is that the person that they're comparing themselves to is themselves comparing themselves to you.
Wait, say that one more time.
If Jerry's comparing himself to Mike, I bet you Mike's also comparing himself to Jerry.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases. Not all, but in a lot of cases.
Oh, yeah. And how, like, I could just see how healing that could be, to be like, wait, it's like that Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other. It's like, wait, you were comparing yourself to me. I was comparing myself to you.
Yeah, you have all of this. I don't have any of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the last thing I'll add here is I think a good old-fashioned gratitude practice is super helpful. The mind has a way of just getting used to its context, and you have to remind it not to do that. I think that's just a really healthy practice, is to notice that many other people will envy the context that we're presently lamenting. And we'll only spot that through conversation and gratitude.
Yeah, I will always advocate for a gratitude practice. I can think there can be so much healing in that, honestly, just to take a step back and reflect and just change your perspective on, okay, there are things that I am grateful for in my life that are going well, that I appreciate. So,
yeah.
Well, dear Redditor, we hear you. We feel you. A lot of people, I'm sure, can relate to you. You're not alone in feeling this way. And maybe have some conversations with some people in your life that you've been comparing yourself to, and see how they respond. See how they struggle with comparison.
And have some conversations with people who are very much not in your life. Meet strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What a great conversation. Okay. New quote. Forgiveness is an internal journey. Yeah, we recently did a podcast episode on the topic of forgiveness. So definitely check that out. I think it was really rich conversation. But again, I think it's like, you don't necessarily need to hear the I'm sorry from the other person to move through and go through your own journey of forgiveness. Forgiving that person is for yourself. It's to unburden yourself of all of the feelings of bitterness and resentment that you're holding on to. It's not about the other person. Whether that person deserves forgiveness or not is irrelevant. It's what this will do for you and yourself.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely very, very well articulated. This is a Roy Wood Jr. quote, who I think is an incredibly talented, brilliant communicator and comedian. And I love his Netflix special. This is a part of his overall special, and I think his articulation on the way to approach forgiveness from this context is so wise. And it's a nice reminder that, we can pay attention to psychologists and researchers, etc., for sources of wisdom. There are a lot of smart motherfuckers out there, and we can listen to a lot more people than just professionals in mental health to learn things about mental health and healing and relationship.
Absolutely. A lot of people have been through a lot of things and have some wisdom to impart. So I like that. I like that we took a quote from not just like a person in the field. So that's cool.
Yeah, I try to pull far and wide as best I can.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. As always, if you're interested in a free consultation call, head on over to delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. And please do check out our Substack. We have really great topics on there that will be helpful on delvepsych.substack.com. And we'll see everybody next time.
See you next time, everybody. Thank you.